Okay, how the presentation order will go tonight from the ADM down to the PM. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Akeo Emmanuel Olanraju. I'm the ADM lead for this sprint. So this is our agenda for the presentation, starting with our introduction and the introduction. Next slide. All right. As an ADM, we make sure of fast and quality delivery of projects to the project owners, and we also make sure both customers and project owners are satisfied. Next slide. Our contribution to the sprint. We follow the project closely to make sure the project is going on well. We communicate with other roles to know if there are any impediments, and if there are any, we develop mitigation plans for it. Then we also communicate with the developer to check to check what he has done and see if corrections are needed. All right. So for this sprint, Team Agile committed 10 PBIs. They planned 10 PBIs. 7 PBIs were committed. 6 were completed, and 3 from the 6 are from sprint 4. Then for Team Binary, 9 PBIs were planned, 12 PBIs were completed, three others were added from the last sprint, and 2 PBIs were completed, and one of the PBIs is from sprint 4. All right, next slide. So this is my work of art. This is my Gantt chart for the Longreach e-commerce project, containing the details of the project, starting with the task, the duration, and all right, next slide. So these are the task names. Yeah, next slide. So this is the burn down, the work burn down, and the task burn down. Next slide. And this is this is our milestone report for the. All right, next slide. So this is our red log, showing the issues we had, the mitigation plans, and the actions, and all. All right, next slide. So our constraints, we had difficulty. No, previously for our constraint, we had this difficulty, like some of the team members they're not responding on time. Then same with the project owners too. And next slide. Our lesson learned. We benefited and we learned from effective communications and cooperation. Next slide, please. Self-development. So this is the team space from the click of worked in the project we worked on with Ayo. The next slide. And this is the pie chart for the task by assignees. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Bingbe. Once again, I'm presenting for the Scrum Masters. Table of content for the Scrum Masters report. These are the 6 role lists for sprint 5. The team of the HSM comprising of Bukola, TLC, and High. These are the tools that were used for this sprint. For sprint 5, which is long reach way e-commerce platform development. The goal for sprint 5 is to develop the payment and security functionality. These are the project deliverables. This is our team capacity. There's ceremonies that we had during the sprint with the time and dates. This is our excuse me. This is our burn down chart for sprint 5, effort burn down chart, which is showing the effort burn down chart, which is showing the work remaining versus the available time, and the PPI burn down chart, which is showing the work item over time. So during this sprint, we were able to complete 43% of the effort burn chart, and 54% of the PBI were completed during this sprint. Then we were able to burn averagely of 2 for effort burn down chart, and 0.8 for PBI burn down. Okay, velocity and cumulative flow chart for flow diagram for sprint 5. The velocity is showing the cumulative work which we've done since the beginning of this program, since sprint 1 up to sprint 5. It shows what we were able to complete and the ones we were not able to complete during the sprint, while the cumulative flow chart is showing the workflow of each story on the board. these are the expected deliverables for 25. These ones that were committed and the ones that were inherited from Sprint 4. 7 PBIs were committed, 3 were inherited from Sprint 4, 6 PBIs were finally delivered, 2 PBIs are still in committed, 1 PBI is in Keaton, while 1 is in dev done. So this is the demonstration of what we did this sprint. Sign up functionality, login board theme, checkout functionality, checkout contact header, visit store, continue privacy. During the retrospective, the team, everybody appreciated the team collaboration actually. So one person made the complaint that the DSU meeting is sometimes, the notice of the meeting is sometimes short, and the kudos was given to everyone for holding on and not giving up. So the action plan, we assigned the notice of meeting to one of us that will follow up. So the blockers and challenges that we had during the sprint that could not make us to progress for a long time. The ambiguity of the stories were kind of ambiguous. So the developer was not able to develop something that met the expectations. So the QAs could not go further. So we kept on going back and forth. So the solution is that we should try and define our stories so that make it as simple as possible for the developer to understand, and then for the QAs to be able to work on their own part as well. Then waiting for input from the developer or third party it delayed the progress of the team during this sprint because the developer is not part of the team. So most of the time we needed his attention.
1 minute remaining.
Available. So this is the lesson learned during this sprint. And the upcoming sprint, we are planning to complete the remaining 4 PPIs that were not completed during this sprint. And the sprint 6, this is the task we are planning to do. Thank you. Efe, go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Efe Boigbe. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of the Team Agile BA. Next slide, please. All right, this is our agenda for today's presentation. The team members' name, meeting and trainings, updated deliverables, Sprint 5 artifacts, additional business analyst groceries, and lessons learned. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are the team members' name who put their efforts together to work on the different projects, both the SharePoint and the Longish e-commerce website. Next slide, please. All right, these are our meeting days. Normally, we do hold our meetings Monday to Sunday, but on Saturday, we have self-development, and Sunday, we have meetings with the PO for our elicitations of requirements and other clarifications. But for the other days, we have our daily stand-up with Team Agile and our individual end of programs presentations. Next slide, please. Yeah, team collaboration and achievements. So far, the BA were able to elicit requirements from the PO. We were able to update the Agile board. Certain PBIs were moved from in-BA to BA done to approve and committed. We were able to collaborate with the QAs and developers on the functionalities of the requirements. Next slide, please. Yeah, development of additional features on the Longish eWay e-commerce. These are the goals and deliverables. In this Sprint 5, we worked on the security features on the Longish eWay e-commerce website, and the features were the payment features, payment by debit card and PayPal, and we also have the capture and cookies. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.   Yeah, this is our mind map that the team came together to worked on, or these are mind map for our deliverables for the Longish E-Way e-commerce website. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, these are use case diagram for the Longish E-Way project. The team also came together to work on this use case diagram to deliver our projects. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are some of the stories and acceptance criteria that were written by members of Team Agile BA, most especially on the payments functionality, because in this sprint 5, we wrote stories on payment functionalities using debit cards and PayPal. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. All right, these are other user stories and acceptance criteria that were written by the BAs. It has more than one scenarios. Next slide, please. Yeah, there's a payment by debit card stories and additional information. Next slide, please. Yeah, the descriptions and acceptance criteria continue. Payment by on
1 minute left.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are all descriptions of the stories. Yeah, these are the wireframes for the stories written by the BAs. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are how the backlog items on the Azure board look like. Next slide, please. Azure board is our board, and this is how it looks like at the moment. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, at the end of sprint 5, we were able to come up with this breakdown of the status of our PBIs. We have 3 PBIs that were written, 5 approved, and 3 were committed. 8 were tested, and 1 bug was raised, although it was resolved. Next
Time
slide.
up.
Oh, user story. This next slide, please. This end of end and requirement traceability matrix that the team came up together to come up with. Next slide, please. This is our sprint goal for sprint 6. Next slide, please. These are glossary, which we are building on. The BAs are continue to build on the glossary and the buzzword. Next slide, please. Lessons learned, these are the lessons learned and the impediments. The major impediments were difficulties in getting team members together to work on the project. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are some of the tools that we used in developing the project. Next slide, please. And these are other activities that took place during the sprint 5, end of program tasks, process workflow, and individual end of internship demo presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. Sorry for the delay, but thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, can you, sorry, my laptop just went. Oh, my name is Sarah. I'll be doing the presentation for this, for the DAs. These are the contents, the DAs in Team Agile, activities of the sprint, the tasks given. Next slide, please. The introduction, we continue to improve our skills using the tools, which are Excel, Power BI, and Tableau, and SQL. Next slide, please. Yeah, we are 4 members at the beginning, but 3 are active for now. Next slide, please. This sprint, we really do not have much because no class was held this sprint because we were busy with our personal presentation. So we just did on individual self-development that was done by the team. That's what you'll be seeing in this presentation. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is one of the tasks done by Paradise, the index function by Paradise in Excel. Next slide, please. Then these SQL tasks done by Paradise too. The first slide I just passed, she was talking about can you please wait? The first slide she was, then this one, she was talking about the dates. Yeah, she was doing the inner join and the left join. Next slide, please. Yeah, she was trying to do the dates. Next slide, please. Can you pass? All right, pass. Next slide. Next slide. This Paradise Walk. These are Paradise Walk on SQL. Yes. Then these are my tags and SQL. The client was trying to see the what is going on in his company. This is a pizza sales query. Yeah, the client was trying to see the total revenue, the average order, the total order sales in his pizza shop. Next slide, please. And he wanted to also see the daily trend. So these are all the queries that daily trends and monthly trends. So these are all the queries that we enter through SQL. Next slide. Percentage of the pizza that was sold, the top pizzas that was sold every day. You wanted to know. So these are the queries we entered. Next slide, please. Yes, the revenue, top 5 revenue. What's 5 revenues? They wanted to know everything. These are the queries I entered. Next slide, please. Yes, my client also wanted to see it in a he wanted to see it in a visual manner, which I use the Power BI to visualize those stuff. So if you go back, if you look at the KPIs here, it's still tally, like the total revenue is still tally with that of the SQL revenue. So at this visualization board, he was able to know that the busiest days was weekends, which was Friday and Saturday, and the monthly where he sells well was during month of July and January. And by category, he's find out that his classic pizza sells more, and people order large sizes than the smaller sizes and the extra large size. So these are the visualization for the query you saw. Next slide, please. And this is the continuation. So remember, I said he wanted to know the total sales, the revenue by quantity. So he found out that the Thai chicken pizza brings more revenue. Then for quantity, find that people like purchasing the classic pizza. Then in total order, people just like purchasing classic pizza. So he find out that the worst seller was on the worst pizza, which was trying to say is complicated. Sorry.
1 minute left.
So he's trying to see if he's going to go through it or he's going to stop selling that pizza. Nice. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a diagram on Tableau, a chart on Tableau, a diagram chart showing the total sales using the subcategory of a product. The maximum sales was on phone and the minimum sales was on fastener. Next slide, please. The repetition on this charts, the repetition of that chart in a Jitter chart in Tableau too. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the PBIs done by Adolisa, PBIs of this sprint done by Adolisa. Next slide, please. And this is the attendance of this sprint, of all the sprints for all the sprints, sorry. And total attendance of the rows too. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Temitope Kukoyi. I'm the QA lead for Sprint 5. Next slide, please. This is the number of, this is the team. We have 10 QA engineers in Team Agile, 1 developer, 1 Scrum Master, and 6 business analysts. Next slide, please. This is the list of QAs in Team Agile, as well as the test manager. Next slide, please. So this is the total test coverage. We had 8 PBIs committed, 26 test cases. The reason why I said 26 test cases was because there are different scenarios in different PBIs. So I totaled everything and put it to 26. Test cases passed, test cases executed 26, test cases passed 18. Test cases failed 8, and test cases, that's for manual. Test cases passed automation 8, test cases failed automation 11, test cases not tested 1, PayPal details was not available. And the test case that was not developed was 1, which is the user icon functionality. Defects found 6, defects closed 6. Next slide, please. This is a screenshot of our test plan and test strategy. Next slide, please. This is the current Team Agile Scrum board showing the tests done, showing the number of tests that has been done by the QAs and the one that are back to committed. Next slide, please. These are screenshots of our automation features. Next slide, please. These are some screenshots of some base tests of the automation as well. Next slide, please. These are the screenshot of our page objects for automation. Next slide, please. This continues the page object. Next slide, please. So these are the test script for step definitions for the automation done. Next slide, please. So continuation of the step definition. So next slide, please. So this is test execution. Next slide, please. So for this, I would like to plead the indulgence of Deji and Rita to please cast their eyes to this video, because Omolara in the last presentation could not add a screenshot of the job she did, as well as self-development. So we use this opportunity to present what she did in the last presentation that she couldn't ask. It's just a few seconds. Rita and Deji, please cast your eyes to this. All right, thank you, Bingpe. Next slide, please. This is our test environment for the Sprint 5, the Visual Studio, SharePoint, Longreach e-commerce website, Azure DevOps. Next slide, please. These are the bugs logged and fixed.
1 minute left.
Next slide, please. This is our requirement traceability matrix for the sprint. Next slide, please. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Onome, and I will be walking you through what the project management team in Team Agile's project managers did during the sprints. So these are the members of the project management team. Next slide. Right, so we had a very wonderful sprint, I would say. One of the key things that we did was to learn about creating a project plan or project schedule, as some would call it. And these are just key steps to making sure that that happens. Next slide. We used these two, specifically MS Project and ClickUp. So we use these tools to create project plans, screenshots you'll be seeing in the following slides. Right, so this is the project plan that was created on ClickUp. So this is what it looks like. From putting in key project activities, establishing dependencies, assigning tasks to individual members of the project team, etc. Next slide. So we did the same thing using Microsoft Project. This is a lot more detailed. You can see how much it will cost to deliver specific activities as part of this project. You can also see some of the dependencies, so hopefully you can. You can see the timeframes for each task to be completed, what task is dependent on which ones to begin, who's assigned what. Yeah, so next slide, please. We did other things during the sprint. So these are some of the key tasks that each person accomplished during the sprint, from attending the DSUs, just to make sure that we are on board and fully participating in the Scrum team, making sure that we are following up with what's going on in terms of the Long Reach Way project. So we contributed to sprint planning refinements, attended career developments, and also worked on the tasks for our end of demo presentations. Next slide. You see a similar thing in my report here as well. One thing that we did as well, this is I managed the sprint for this, I managed this sprints, but everybody else supported with monitoring the attendance records. Next slide. This is Omawumi's work, same things that I've said earlier. Next slide. This is Funke's work as well. You can see the similarities. Next slide. This is what our attendance monitoring sheet looks like. It's very detailed, and it really helped us to track people's performance or people's attendance and to the different Scrum ceremonies and the daily stand-ups, and just to make sure that we're keeping in touch with people. In case anybody has been absent consecutively, we know how to follow up with them and make sure that they're doing okay. Next slide. All right, thank you very much. That's us from the Agile team.
Thank you.
All
That's
right. Thank you. You can stop recording.
Give me a moment. Hi, good evening, everyone. So this is Team Binary's 5th sprint, and we'll be demoing and reviewing our work with the stakeholders today. So the order of the presentation is first, we'll start with the Scrum Masters, then the project managers, Agile delivery managers, business analysts, quality assurance engineers, and finally data analysts. So over to.
Thank you, Damisola. This is Stephen, the Scrum Master lead for Sprint 5. Our sprint goal for Sprint 5 is to create PBIs for the payment gateway, showing the various payment options, the payment cookies option, and the payment capture. Next slide, please. These are definition of ready and definition of done. Next slide, please. These are updated team charter. Next slide, please. These are Scrum ceremonies, a daily standard, sprint planning, sprint refinement, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. Next slide, please. These are Scrum team members. Myself, Yetunde Oribogi, Isioma Babatunde, Mostran Adeyemi, Adebenro, Ajao. Next slide, please. These are the team binary sprint 5 leads. Next slide, please. The roles of Scrum Master during this sprint: to facilitate agile ceremonies like daily standards, sprint planning, sprint review, retrospective, backlog refinement, and ensuring that they are kept within time box. We supported the team, we escalated impediments, and we updated our team charter. Next slide, please. These are the deliverables for Sprint 5. The paper payment, the card payment. Next slide, please. This is part of the deliverables. Next slide, please. These are capacity planning, a screenshot of it. Next slide, please. These are the PBIs committed in Sprint 5, about 19 PBIs committed. Next slide, please. These are the impediment and the mitigation. In Sprint 5, because of the individual task, more focus was on individual tasks than the teamwork. And then we have some uncompleted PBIs from Sprint 4, which were added to Sprint 5, which kind of slowed down the whole process. And again, the testers were unable to do automation on paper. And the mitigations Issues escalated to the ADM, and tests were told to carry on testing without paper. Team reminded of the team chart and their responsibility towards the project goal. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are metric charts. The blue line is showing our PBIs, while the green is showing the completed work. For the burn down chart, which shows the amount of work completed in this sprint in relation to the one remaining. Next slide, please. Here's a screenshot of our Azure DevOps. Next slide, please. This is a screenshot of our estimation board. Next slide, please. These are retrospective screenshot. Next slide, please. These are screenshots of the product on the Long Reach website. Next slide, please. Still part of the next slide, please. Next slide, please.
1 minute left.
These are the lesson learned. Quick installation to ADM, collaboration and effective communication among team members, encourage constructive feedback, ensuring all Scrum ceremonies are effectively done and productive, identifying impediments quickly and mitigating them. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Oluwatodumo Adeosun. I'm the PM lead for the project management for this sprint. So next slide. So the group members are me, Rachel, Adesola Ali, Damilore, Timiloru, Olufumilola. Next slide. So the agenda for this task is the attendance tracker, the activity tracker, our weekly training and lesson length. Next slide. So this is the attendance tracker for this sprint of everyone. Next slide. So we send the activity tracker over to the DA and we're able to visualize it for us. And from this, you can see the top members by attendance and the role. You can see also the top members by attendance. Next slide. So during this sprint, we learned what we did not with IO was we learned about ClickUp. From using ClickUp, we were able to make a project schedule. And on the left, this screenshot is just the task that we did for the project. And you go over to the next slide, please. Over to the right, you can see a Gantt chart that we did using ClickUp. We're able to add all the dependencies for the project as well. Next slide, please. And during this, for this sprint, the lesson learned we learned was using ClickUp for project scheduling. We did a CV review with Aya as well, and he also gave us some tips as well. Also did some career path with Aya as well, and did some just search. Also, we also learned about Excel training during the normal weekly plan. Next slide. And that's all. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. My name is Oluwole Kipelu. I'm the PA lead for this Sprint 5, and I'll be presenting for the business analyst. Next slide. This is the content of the presentation. Next slide. These are my group members. Next slide. These are the key meetings we've actually had within the sprint, and feedback was called the individual presentation, feedback section, personal tasks. Next slide. This is the mind map for Sprint 5, showing the different features within the Epic, within the payment gateway, PayPal, payment cookies, card payments, and payment recapture. Next slide. Yeah, this is the picture, a screenshot of our Azure board, the progress of the PBIs. Next slide. Yeah, this is the intern, all intern contribution, showing different numbers of PBIs each person wrote. Next slide. This is the overview of the PBIs. in total, we wrote 24 PBIs and we committed 4, some already in BA done. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the PBIs we created with the wireframes. This is the cookies reject button, and that's the wireframe. Next slide. This is also another PBI created with this wireframe, the cookie accept button. Next slide. This is also another one, the reCAPTCHA at checkout. Next slide with the wireframe. This is also a successful reCAPTCHA PBI with this wireframe. Next slide. Yes, this is the wireframe and the screenshot on the website. This is basically what we ordered and what we got. Next slide. Yeah, Sprint 5 PBI status. This is the status of our PBIs on the Azure board, showing the approved ones, the committed ones, the in-dev, the dev done and in QA. Next slide. Yes, and this is our gap analysis for the language website, basically for the checkout process and the payment option. And for this one, we're able to identify that the gap was, we needed a simplified checkout process to reduce cart abandonment. Next slide, please. Also, this is still an in-depth of the gap analysis, which my team worked on. And we're able to identify that the customer, when it comes to customer engagement, lack of personalized recommendations, customer review and loyalty program was still a gap. And action required was basically to develop and integrate features like personalized recommendation, customer reviews, and loyalty program. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is still a continuation. Yes, and this is basically the language website process workflow, how the customer comes into the starts his journey on the website, all through down to where he makes payments, card payments, and PayPal payments, and also the admin side of things. Next slide. This is the language or the process map for the payment gateway, showing when the customer gets into the website, view product, add product to cart, then actually select proceed to checkout, and also choose his payment method. If it fails, then he's actually advised to choose another payment method. If he's successful, then he receives another confirmation. Next slide. This is use case specification and diagram for the how a customer registers on the platform. The actor visits the website and clicks on register menu. The actor inputs his credentials. When the clicks are made, the actor receives a confirmation message and is added as a new customer. Next slide. Is also the use case specification for login, showing how the customer logs in using his username and password. Next slide. This is the use case specification for adding product to cart, and this is how the customer places order. Next slide.
1 minute left.
This is our user journey. This is our persona and the user journey map, showing the awareness stage, how the customer, the user actually gets to know about the website, consideration stage, the decision stage, the payment gateway interaction, which is more of a focus, how he's able to choose different payment options, and the post-purchase stage when he receives his order and give feedback on the website. Thank you. Next slide. This is our functional requirement, and we focus basically on the payment method, which actually supports multiple payment sites. Next slide. And also still showing the payment gateway integration within the project. Thank you. Next slide. This is the lesson learned within the sprint. We're able to implement in creation of our high quality wireframes, improve teamwork and team building collaboration, mitigating risk and prompt escalation of impediment affecting the progress of the project, improved on communication and activity by engaging one another, multitasking skills developed by the team members due to personal task and assignment. Next slide.
Time up.
These are the professional tools we used, Miro, Lucidchart, and the likes. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Akishala Bami, and I'll be presenting for Team Binary Data Analyst. Next slide, please. This is the agenda for this sprint. Next slide, please. And these are the group members of Team Binary Data Analyst. Next slide, please. So summary of proficiencies gained in Sprint 5, we have elevator speech, communication skills, data visualization tools, Tableau and Power BI, SQL, and Excel. Next slide, please. So this sprint we did a lot of personal development as we did embedded classes. So this is an Excel exercise task by Oyindamola Odosi. Next slide, please. So this is a text to column task. Next slide, please. This is she used the if function to analyze data. Yeah. Next slide, please. Then she also used the VLOOKUP function to analyze the data here in Excel. Next slide, please. So this is a SQL task by Oyindamola Odosi where she used the aggregate functions sum and group by. She also used the order by function to analyze the database. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is a SQL joins task by Ayobami. Next slide, please. So this is a self join. The query here executes a self join. Next slide, please. The query here executes an inner join. Next slide, please. The query in this image executes a left join on the database. Next slide. The query here executes a right join. Next slide. So this is a Power BI dashboard giving insight into DataWorks sales data by Ebere. Next slide, please. So this is a Tableau dashboard done by Olabanji, giving insight into sales and profits over the last 5 years. Next slide, please. So this is a Tableau dashboard by Muslima on the list of companies' data sets. So this dashboard is explanatory enough, and it shows the profits and expenses. It also shows the number of companies and total profits by industry. Next slide, please. So this is a Tableau dashboard by Bode on giving insight into sales. Next slide, please. This is another dashboard by Bode on the list of companies' data sets. The slide is explanatory enough, and it gives an insight into the sales, into the profit and expenses. Next slide, please. So this is another dashboard on the Superstore data set, giving insight into sales and profit by region and states. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is another Tableau dashboard by Bode. Next slide, please. So these are the visualization tasks for the sprints. We have the attendance tracker and the product backlog item tracker. Next slide, please. We had to clean the raw data set to remove errors and inconsistencies for further visualization. Next slide, please. So this is the data after cleaning. Next slide. This is the team binary attendance tracker. Next slide. This is the attendance tracker by role. Next slide, please. And this is the dashboard giving an insight into the attendance. The dashboard is quite explanatory. Next slide. So this is the product backlog PBI data. Next slide. So this is a pivot table analysis of the product backlog item data. Next slide. And this is a pie chart showing the distribution of PBIs by states for Sprint 5 as the PBI tracker. Next slide. This is the end. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So this is the report for Sprint 5. If you please. So members of our team, as normal, you've got KG Adebayo, who is the QA lead, and Umi Davis, and myself, and Eddie. Next slide, please. So the objective of this sprint was we were testing the user stories assigned to the team, which was to take the long reach payments. He's got screenshots on there to show all the PBIs that we've worked on. We had a little bit of issues with this because we didn't have the right data for testing, and we had bugs that were raised. So in total, you had 5 bugs that were raised, and only 2 of the tests were passed. Next slide, please. And you've also seen screenshots of bugs that were raised. Let's put some of them there. Next slide, please. And this is still a continuation of the bugs. Next slide, please. And he's also got a screenshot of the past test cases that I've got on there, which were tested manually. Next slide, please. So the challenges we had with this in this sprint, we had a lot of incorrect user stories. The PBI stories were not written properly, and we struggled to sort of like get that resolved on time for us to finish. And we also had resource constraints. So we were faced with shortage of testers, and this was reported to the Scrum Master as well. And also, we did not have the right data for testing. So for examples of things we needed were PayPal details, which we never had, and the credit card details that were given to us as well did not work, so they were incorrect. Next slide, please. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.